For our last video this week, we want to understand how to check our calculations using our TI-84. So this is both confidence intervals and hypothesis testing. So using the TI-84, we're just going to double check some of the values that we got before. So our newspaper data was 144 out of 300, and here was our interval previously. So on my calculator, I'm going to go to Stat, and I'm going to arrow to Tests. Notice I just back arrowed to get to Tests. So I'm going to Test, and again, this is where you have to make sure you understand the name of the test. So in this case, I want to do a 1 proportion Z interval, and notice that that is going to be not even on this page, not the Z test, but the 1 proportion Z interval. So that's A. So I'm choosing that one. Now again, I have the TI-84, so it gives me this cute little menu where it tells me exactly what to put in. If you have the TI-83, you just have to remember the order that you put them in. So X is the number of successes. In my case, I got 144. N is the number of trials, which was 330, or sample size. The confidence level, we're using 0.95, and then I'm going to calculate. So again, if I were using a TI-83, I would still go to the same place, but then I would put 144, comma 330, comma 0.95, and it still would give me the same answer. So notice it's giving me the 0.3829 and the 0.4899, which does match up with what I have here. Again, guidelines for using your calculator or StatCrunch really is you still have to do most of the work yourself. So you should be using it as a check to make sure that what you did by hand makes sense or that you got it right, but I wouldn't just rely on it completely unless you're doing like a StatCrunch question where they don't require you to show all of that work. Here's one for you to check by hand. So use your TI-84 or 83 to check to make sure that we do get an interval of 0.15 and 0.39 using your calculator. So again, on my calculator, I'm going to go to Stat, and then I'm going to arrow to Tests. I'm doing a confidence interval. It's a 1 proportion confidence interval. So that's A, 1 prop Z int. In this case, X. If I take 0.27 times 53, I get 14.31. And when I did this on StatCrunch, I could just put in 14.31. The calculator says, no, you can't. So I actually have to put in 14 as a whole number. So in that one, you'll just round to the nearest whole number. And then out of 53. So this is where StatCrunch is a little bit better because it will let you put in a more exact value. My confidence level was 0.95. And when I calculate, I get 0.1455. and 0.3828, and those answers do in fact match up. Now if we're doing hypothesis testing, again the process is very similar. We're going to test our US Consumer Report claim. We're going to go to Stat and test just as we did before. Now before we arrowed all the way down to A, which was the 1 prop Z interval. I want now the 1 prop Z test, which is right here, so I can either arrow down to 5 or I could just click 5 on the keypad. P sub 0, that is whatever our hypothesis was. So in this case, our hypothesis proportion was the 90%, so 0.9% of homes. X is the number of homes that had the smoke detectors, which was 376, so number of successes, 376 out of the total number of 400. This is where I choose the alternative hypothesis. Our alternative in this case was that it was greater than. So I'm looking for numbers greater than 0.9. And then I have two choices here. If I choose calculate, it does the calculations for me. So it gives me the p value of 0.0038, which is of course what I had before, 0.004. I could have done the exact same thing and clicked draw, and notice it would have drawn the little graph for me. And typically you would see some shading on here. You can't really because it's so far over here that you can't tell that it's shaded, just like on StatCrunch if we did it, you could hardly tell that it was shaded. I would like for you to now check your results using the TI-84 if you have one for the M&M example that we did where we found a p-value of 0.44. So see if you can plug in the correct values into your 1 proportion z-test to find the solution. Again, to do this, I'm going to go to Stat and Test and 5. In this case, I'm expecting 0.2. I'm expecting 20%. I found 21 of 122. And my alternative here was not equal to. So again, I can go to Calculate, and it's going to give me my p-value of 0.44. I could have done the same thing, and instead of clicked Calculate, I could have gone to Draw instead. And notice here it's going to draw what that picture would look like the same way that StatCrunch would do that.